Love isn't always fireworks and roses. It's not the grand gestures or the sweeping declarations that make a relationship feel like home. It's the small things, the quiet moments that slip through the cracks of everyday life and root themselves deep in your heart. I've learned that love lives in the spaces between the big moments, the ones you don't always notice until they're gone. I remember once, years ago, when my partner was running late after work. The sky had turned that soft shade of lavender you only see at dusk, and the air was thick with a scent of rain that never came. I sat on the couch, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, trying not to worry. And then my phone buzzed, just one simple message. "Text me when you get home." That's all it said. But something about those words stopped me cold. Not because they were profound, but because they were so familiar, so deeply woven into the fabric of our lives together. It wasn't just a request. It was a promise, a tether, a way of saying, "I care enough to wait for your voice." That's what love is, really. It's not the diamond rings or the surprise trips to Paris. Those things are beautiful, sure, but they're fleeting. They shimmer and sparkle and fade. Real love, the kind that lasts, is made up of tiny threads. Threads that seem insignificant on their own but, when woven together, create something unbreakable. It's the text messages sent in the middle of the day just to say, "Hey, I'm thinking about you." It's the coffee brewed every morning exactly how you like it, without being asked. It's the way someone remembers your favorite song and plays it softly in the background while you cook dinner, even if they know you'll pretend not to notice just so you can keep humming along in secret. There was this one time, back when we were still learning each other's rhythms, when I was having one of those days where everything felt too heavy. You know, the kind where your chest feels tight and your thoughts race faster than your breath. I didn't say anything about it, mostly because I didn't want to burden anyone else with my heaviness. But my partner noticed anyway. They didn't ask me what was wrong, didn't press me to talk. Instead, they handed me a mug of tea, my favorite blend, and sat down beside me, silent but present. We didn't speak for a long time. We just sat there, side by side, the warmth of the tea seeping into my hands, the quiet hum of the world outside reminding me that I wasn't alone. That's another thing about love. It doesn't always need words. Sometimes it's in the silence. It's in the way someone looks at you when you're hurting and lets you know, without saying a word, that they're right here. It's in the hand squeeze during an awkward moment, the knowing glance across a crowded room, the gentle brush of fingers against yours as you walk side by side. These are the moments that build trust, that build intimacy. They're subtle, almost imperceptible, but they leave an imprint on your soul. And then there's laughter. Oh, how I've come to cherish the sound of shared laughter. It's not the loud, raucous kind that turns heads in restaurants. It's the quiet, private kind, the kind that starts with a look and ends with tears streaming down your face because you both know exactly why it's funny. It's the inside jokes that no one else would understand, the silly nicknames, the spontaneous dances in the kitchen while making dinner. Love isn't always serious. And sometimes the most intimate moments are the ones where you're laughing so hard you forget to be afraid. I remember once, during one of those particularly stressful times in life, when everything seemed to be falling apart around us. Bills piling up, deadlines looming, family drama bubbling over. We were sitting on the floor of our tiny apartment, surrounded by takeout containers and unfolded laundry, feeling completely overwhelmed. And then, out of nowhere, my partner started singing Bohemian Rhapsody at the top of their lungs, complete with dramatic hand gestures and terrible dance moves. First, I just stared at them, stunned. But then I couldn't help it. I started laughing hard. And soon we were both belting out the lyrics, dancing like fools, forgetting, if only for a few minutes, about all the chaos swirling around us. That's the power of laughter in love. It reminds you that you're not alone, that you can find joy even in the messiest of moments. Of course, love isn't always easy. There are days when it feels more like work than magic, when the small things start to feel like burdens instead of blessings. There are arguments, misunderstandings, moments of frustration when you wonder if it's all worth it. But even in those moments, love persists. In the apology whispered in the dark, in the effort to understand even when you don't agree, in the willingness to keep showing up, even when you're tired. One of the hardest lessons I've learned in love is that it requires patience. So much of what we think defines love is actually rooted in impatience. The desire for instant gratification, for constant validation, for proof that we're loved. But real love takes time. It grows slowly, quietly, like a plant that needs sunlight and water and careful tending. It's not always obvious, not always flashy, but it's steady. It's the reassurance of knowing that even on the days when you're not at your best, when you're cranky or distant or distracted, the person you love will still be there, waiting for you to come back to yourself. There's a certain comfort in that, a comfort that goes beyond physical presence. It's the knowledge that someone sees you, truly sees you, flaws and all, and chooses to stay anyway. It's the quiet understanding that you're not perfect, and neither are they. But somehow together you make something whole. Love isn't about fixing each other or filling each other's gaps. It's about walking alongside someone, hand in hand, even when the path is uncertain. And then there's the little stuff, the stuff that seems trivial but means everything. The way someone folds your clothes just the way you like them, the way they always reach for the same side of the bed, the way they know exactly how you take your coffee without ever asking. These are the rituals that become sacred, the routines that anchor you in the chaos of life. They're the things you don't realize you miss until they're gone. I remember once, after a particularly long trip away from home, stepping off the plane and seeing my partner waiting for me at the gate. I hadn't told them I'd be arriving early, so I was surprised to see them there. They ran toward me, arms open wide, and wrapped me in the tightest hug I'd ever received. But what struck me most wasn't the hug itself. It was the fact that they had brought my favorite snack from the airport kiosk, the one I always used to buy whenever I traveled alone. They knew I'd be hungry after the flight, even though I hadn't mentioned it. It was such a small gesture, barely worth noting, but it meant the world to me. Because it reminded me that, even when I was far away, I was still on their mind. That's what love does. It makes you feel seen, known, understood. It's not about grand displays or extravagant gifts. It's about the quiet consistency of someone who shows up for you, day after day, in ways that matter. It's about the little things that add up to something bigger, something deeper, something lasting. So often we spend our lives searching for love in all the wrong places. We chase after passion, excitement, adventure, thinking that's where true connection lies. But the truth is, love isn't found in the extraordinary moments. It's found in the ordinary ones, in the mundane routines and quiet exchanges that make up the fabric of daily life. It's in the way someone remembers your favorite book, the way they hold your hand when you're nervous, the way they listen when you talk, even when they don't have anything to say. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is present. It doesn't demand attention or crave recognition. It simply exists, quietly and steadily, in the spaces between the big moments. And maybe that's the most beautiful thing about it, that it doesn't need to shout to be heard. It speaks in whispers, in glances, in the gentle touch of a hand on your shoulder. It's the warmth of a shared blanket on a cold night, the comfort of a familiar voice on the phone, the reassurance of knowing that, no matter what happens, you're not alone. So if you're looking for love, don't waste your time chasing after fireworks. Look for the warmth. Look for the small things, the texts that come at just the right time, the songs that remind you of someone special, the silences that feel comfortable instead of awkward. Those are the moments where love lives. Those are the moments that matter most. And if you're lucky enough to find someone who gets you, who knows your quirks, your fears, your dreams, hold on to them. Not because they're perfect, but because they're willing to grow with you, to stumble and fall and get back up again, to show up in all the little ways that make life feel like a gift. Because that's what love is in the end. Not perfection but persistence. Not grand gestures but genuine care. Not fireworks but warmth. And sometimes that warmth is enough to light up the entire world.